How did God dwell with Adam and Eve in the garden if he's an unapproachable light? And then was God physically talking with people in the Old Testament? So in the Old Testament, we have two terms, two Bible theology terms. One is a theophany, where it's theos, the Greek word for God, and the other is Christophany, Christ. And it speaks of Old Testament appearances of God, where he physically shows up. Now we have this God dwells in an inapproachable light. There's something about the Father. And once I heard a pastor make this comment, and I've never been able to contradict it, where he says, never in the Bible really do you see God other than on the throne in this inapproachable light. And even in heaven, he goes, I don't even know if we'll see the Father in heaven, or if you'll just see this so powerful, so bright, so awe-inspiring light, but you will see the Lamb of God next to him at that throne. I think in the Old Testament, when you see God show up, you see Christ coming, because that gets rid of any contradiction there. And I think what's really helpful to understand this is Moses had a unique experience with God the Father that no one else ever had. And Moses, he put him in a little rock cove, closes his eyes, walks past, uncovers his eyes, and he gets to see the wake, as I like to describe it, like a wake of a boat. You never saw the speedboat, but you saw the waves after the boat went by. That's what Moses got to see. And the way it's described, that's unique. Like Moses got a special glimpse, a unique view of God no one ever else got. So if that's what Moses got, then what were other people seeing? And it's Christ. And what you find is in the Old Testament, there is the phrase, the angel of the Lord, with that definite article, not a angel, but the angel of Yahweh. And he shows up first to Hagar. Now we see God in the garden. I think it's the same person we're seeing. It's Christ showing before he came as a babe. He's showing up. He shows up to Hagar, shows up to Gideon, the burning bush. It says the angel of the Lord was in the bush, and then Yahweh speaks. 3 men appear to Abraham. 2 go off to Sodom and Gomorrah. 1 man stays, and Yahweh starts talking. So we see these appearances as man. Jacob wrestled with someone. He wrestled with God and lived. And Hosea even clarifies, like in case there was any question in Genesis 32, Hosea clarifies he wrestled with God himself. Well, who was he wrestling with? And Christ is really the only answer that we can give. The Jews have a bigger struggle than we do. And so you see that throughout the Old Testament is the angel of the Lord appearing. And it's also worth noting, right? In the Revelation, John sees angels that they're so awe-inspiring, these angels. And he falls down like to worship them. And the angel says, don't do that. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. And he tries to pick them up, right? And stop that, stop that, stop that. Yet, when Joshua sees the angel of the Lord, that angel says, you take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. And he allows Joshua to come up and worship him. So once again, you see the angel of the Lord receiving worship as God. You see him doing things only God can do. And so that's the idea in the Old Testament. So how did God dwell with Adam and Eve specifically? I think it was Christ walked with them in the garden. It's the best answer I've ever had as far as that not contradicting other stuff. And so we've got that.